Thousands of Israeli soldiers are continuing a ground invasion into Gaza this morning. The offensive was launched on a day that was supposed to bring a temporary ceasefire. This is Israel's first major ground offensive in Gaza in 5 years. From across the Bay to around the world, the stories that matter on KPIX 5 News this morning. And good morning, everyone. Friday is here. Thank goodness. It's July 18th. Yes, I'm Frank Ballinger.
And I'm Michelle Griego. Time now is 6 o'clock.
Well, one of the first signs of the Malaysian airline disaster over the Ukraine was debris falling out of the sky. You can see it in this home video shot just after the plane was shot down. Those white streaks are actually parts of the plane falling to the ground. Now, the United States is analyzing the trajectory of the missile to try and learn who shot the plane down. CNN's Andrew Spencer reports President Obama is now pushing for independent investigators to be allowed to examine the crash site.
Today, nearly 300 people are dead after a plane crash in eastern Ukraine, and a woman who says she was supposed to be on that flight is still alive.
Coming to the airport in the taxi, I was just crying. I'm just thinking that I feel like I've been given a second chance.
The FAA now warns U.S. airlines to avoid the airspace over eastern Ukraine. U.S. officials believe a missile destroyed Malaysia Airlines Flight 17.
If that is the case, it is an unspeakable crime.
There is a clear need, a full and transparent international investigation.
We insist that the perpetrators must swiftly be brought to justice.
Russian President Vladimir Putin led a moment of silence on Russian television, but protesters outside the United Nations blamed him for the plane's destruction, while Putin blamed the Ukrainians for escalating the conflict. Some hope the catastrophic loss of life might be an opportunity for a ceasefire between Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine and the country's government. If not, it could create an even deeper divide between the East and the West.
The fact that you've had a civilian plane shot down with hundreds of Dutch, German, French citizens may have the effect of galvanizing the European resolve a bit more than had been the case.
Others reflect on the tragedy itself at a growing memorial outside the Dutch embassy in Ukraine. 298 people dead amid the wreckage of a civilian passenger jet. I'm Andrew Spencer reporting.
Nearly 200 bodies have been found in the debris field so far, and the work to identify them begins. KPIX 5 reporter Ann Makovic joins us live from the newsroom. And Ann, no word yet on whether there were any Americans on board.
Well, there are 41 people whose nationalities are still unconfirmed this morning, and many of them could indeed be Americans. Most of the passengers were European, including 154 from the Netherlands. There were also Australians, Malaysians, Indonesians, Filipinos, and one Canadian. And some of the world's leading experts on AIDS were on board. 108 scientists and researchers from around the world were on their way to the International AIDS Conference in Australia. Among those who died was Dr. Joop Lang from the Netherlands. He was a former president of the International AIDS Society.
The loss of his expertise and his leadership is a blow that I just don't know how we will ever replace him. We're dedicated to eradicating HIV/AIDS, and today that hoped for outcome seems even further away.
Now, the families of many of the people who were killed on that plane gathered at the Amsterdam and Kuala Lumpur airports to find out what they could about their loved ones and grieve together. As for that AIDS conference, organizers say it will go on as scheduled starting on Sunday. Michelle.
And any word on what effect this could have on HIV/AIDS research?
Well, it's certainly going to be a blow. Some of those researchers and doctors on board could have well been on the way to finding the cure. Their research now cut short. Live in the newsroom, Ann Makovic, KPIX 5.
We will have all the latest developments at KPIX.com.
And developing news in the Middle East now. Israeli troops are pushing deeper into Gaza with the stated goal of destroying tunnels and rocket launching sites there. The Israeli Defense Forces releasing video of troops crossing the border overnight. Today they're firing tank shells and clashing with Palestinian fighters. Israel says it killed 14 militants and 1 Israeli soldier died. It appears Israeli citizens support the invasion, but are also very worried too.
Of course, we're very worried about the boys that are going in, the young men and boys that are going in, and we're very worried, and it's very frightening for us, for them.
The offensive follows 10 days of airstrikes which failed to halt rocket fire from Hamas into Israel. It also follows an unsuccessful attempt by Egypt to broker a lasting ceasefire agreement.
Let's check in with Elizabeth now on a traffic alert.
Okay, thanks guys. And we're starting to see some delays now on northbound 101, scene of this overnight fatal accident in Sunnyvale. So if you're coming northbound, that Lawrence Expressway off-ramp is going to be closed for at least another half hour. Could be closer to an hour. CHP told us between 6:30 and 7. Anyway, you can see the slowdowns on those northbound lanes now beginning right around Great America Parkway. So you may want to cut off there or just get ahead of Lawrence Expressway and get off at Fair Oaks. But again, that was a slight change because initially it was just affecting that off-ramp. Here's a live look at the Bay Bridge Toll Plaza. The metering lights were turned on 20 minutes ago, and you are stacked up now beyond the 880 overcrossing. And those delays are spread out across all lanes. But the good news is you can see a lot of green in our sensors. I kind of wanted to give you this overview of traffic around the Bay Area. Right now in the East Bay, if you're heading to the Bay Bridge Toll Plaza, no big delays in the approaches, and the peninsula still looks clear on 101 and 280. Coming up, we'll get a check of mass transit on this Friday. In the meantime, I can feel how wet, moist it is here in the studio. So I can imagine what it's like outside.
Yeah, we definitely have drizzle out there, as you were alluding to, with the very wet roadways. Good morning, everybody. And due to the low clouds, we now have officially 1 hour and 10-minute delays on some arriving flights at SFO. Again, that's due to the low clouds. That ceiling is roughly down to about 600 feet at this hour. Upper 50s in Santa Rosa, low 60s San Jose, mid 60s across the Central Bay. At this hour, it is 60 degrees in Fairfield, back and through the Delta. Today's highs, no clearing of the skies, 60s beaches. 60s, 70s will be common across the Bay today. Upper 70s in Redwood City through Palo Alto, 80 in Concord, Clayton, and in Walnut Creek. Outside number today will be 86 degrees. That'll be towards Brentwood, Tracy, Oakley, and also to the south towards Morgan Hill and in Gilroy. And notice this is a pretty benign weather pattern each and every day. We call it the summer doldrums. Frank and Michelle.
All right, Roberta, thank you. Prosecutors believe the 3 men who robbed a bank in Stockton intended to take hostages. An ensuing gun battle was captured on home video. Police say the suspects had an AK-47 and 3 handguns with magazines taped to the suspects' bodies. 2 of them were killed, and the only suspect to survive forced a woman to take the bullets meant for him.
This person used her as a human shield. Well, I hope that swiftly what goes around comes around.
The suspects came into the bank on Wednesday afternoon wearing hooded sweatshirts and sunglasses to disguise themselves. They took down a security guard, took over the bank, and got money out of the vault. It's not clear how much they took.
And a man who was beating a woman in public in San Leandro is dead after a sheriff's deputy shot him. It happened yesterday at East 14th Street. Witnesses heard and watched the episode unfold, starting with a woman screaming. Alameda County Sheriff's deputies say it was a savage case of domestic violence, with the suspect hitting the woman inside a car.
He was smashing her head off the side of the car violently, according to our witnesses, and he was dragging her up and down the sidewalk and repeatedly beating her.
A deputy arrived on a motorcycle, quickly rushed to help the woman. Witnesses say the deputy pulled that woman from the car, and the suspect then tried to drive away, and that's when the deputy fired 6 or 7 shots, and the suspect died a short time later. Authorities are now investigating whether the shooting was necessary, given that the suspect apparently was not armed.
New this morning, San Francisco firefighters find an illegal marijuana grow operation while fighting a house fire. The one-alarm fire at the home on Mayflower near Franconia Street started about 2 hours ago. It took crews almost an hour to knock down the flames. No one was hurt and 1 person was arrested.
Speaking of marijuana, happening today in San Jose, some tough new restrictions on pot clubs will go into effect. And Kit Doe joins us live outside City Hall now in San Jose. And Kit, pot clubs say the new rules could put a lot of them out of business.
Yeah, these pot clubs are worried because the city council here is turning up the heat on a lot of these businesses with these new laws going into effect later on today. Shutdown letters will be going out over the next 90 days to businesses, for example, that are too close to homes or businesses and schools. If owners find an approved location to move into inside one of the city's designated industrial zones, they'll have a year to do so. As for the ones that have been getting a lot of complaints, code enforcement officers will be looking at them first. Part of the new law requires the businesses to grow their own medicine and make their own edibles or food. And the dispensaries say that's not practical and have banded together and collected about 60,000 petition signatures to overturn these new laws. The problem, half of those signatures are invalid. Now look across the street here from City Hall at the corner of 4th and Santa Clara, and you see an Occupy-style protest. 2 tents set up out here just across the street. Camping is illegal in the city of San Jose. So we'll have to wait and see how long these tents last. These dispensaries very public about their fight. We're going to get an update later on today from them to see how that effort is going in terms of collecting the signatures for that petition. We're live in downtown San Jose. Kitto, KPIX 5.
Time now is 6:10. New developments in the effort to keep the A's in Oakland. The change of heart that should provide some hope to fans.
Here's a clue for you today. It comes in small and large sizes. Where's Roberta as the news continues on KPIX 5, right?
Never seen a horse with braids. All right, mass transit looking good. 50 BART trains all on time. We'll hit the road, show you some slick roadways, what it's doing to the Friday morning commute. It's all after this break.
Cluster of wildfires up in north central Washington has prompted hundreds of evacuations from homes and a big hospital there too. These are scenes from Brewster where the hospital actually had to empty out. The fire has burned at least 28 square miles so far and at least 2 homes have been destroyed. Right now the fire is 0 contained.
New this morning, the homeless woman who was beaten by a CHP officer in Los Angeles is suing. The now viral video shows 51-year-old Marlene Panick getting punched repeatedly by an officer alongside a busy freeway earlier this month. She is now seeking monetary damages. CHP has not released the identity of the officer, but officials say he was trying to stop her from walking onto the freeway.
Oakland A's are one step closer to committing to a 10-year lease agreement, keeping the team in the city. The A's owner, Lou Wolf, says he is giving the lease agreement some serious consideration now. They've been working on it for a while. City Council did make a series of tweaks to the deal before approving it earlier in the week. Among the changes, a new clarification of the notice the team will have to give if it does want to get out of the lease and leave. If the A's do agree to the modifications, the amended deal could go up for approval sometime later this month.
It is time to get a check on our traffic with Elizabeth.
Okay, thanks guys. And it's Friday light in some parts of the Bay Area, not so much the case in other areas. But I will take you to westbound 580 where the drive time is maybe slightly lower than normal, but we are seeing the backups out of Tracy. The biggest delays right now are from Tracy on 205 to about North Livermore Avenue. And then does loosen up a bit. Those headlights are westbound traffic coming into Dublin Pleasanton. Silicon Valley drivers also off to a nice start. Wanted to show you this live look at 880 and westbound 237 where you can see all lanes are clear on 880 and 237. And if you're traveling farther north up in Oakland, northbound and southbound 880, the Nimitz Freeway, these taillights are continuing into San Leandro and Hayward, and now the overnight road work has been picked up. Everything looks pretty good. At the Bay Bridge, you are stacked up almost to the maze, probably foot of the maze by now. The metering lights were turned on half hour ago, right around 5:45. Just like usual. And we still are watching the scene of this fatal crash. A traffic alert. The investigation into this accident is now more than 4 hours old. Northbound 101 at that Lawrence Expressway off-ramp remains closed. In fact, we have some video taken from the scene earlier. The accident happened around 2 this morning. And again, right now just the off-ramp remains blocked, but it is starting to affect the main lines of the freeway. We're starting to see those delays right around Great America Parkway, so that's probably your best bet until they completely reopen that off-ramp. Again, use Great America Parkway instead. That is your latest KCBS Drive to Work. Here's Roberta. Another check of your forecast.
1 hour, 10-minute delays on some arriving flights at SFO. Good morning, everyone. Those delays largely responsible because of this right here. Take a look at the low clouds, the fog, as we peer out towards the Bay Bridge this morning. In fact, that ceiling is so low this morning that we do have some heavy drizzle, so be mindful of that as you head on out for your morning commute. Upper 50s in Santa Rosa at this hour to 64 degrees in Oakland. The winds are pretty light out of the west at 6 miles per hour. This is the scene in downtown San Jose. Again, mostly cloudy skies in all reporting stations. We will see a typical summertime weather pattern today for your Friday with near normal temperatures. Now, here's what you can expect today into the weekend. That area of high pressure, that is staying put over the Four Corners state. We do have this pesky area of low pressure to the south of us. That's enhancing our marine layer. This morning, it was roughly about 2,000 feet deep, so don't anticipate any local coastal clearing. Monterey Bay, you'll see some late day clearing in the upper 60s. To the north, upper 80s in Ukiah. Due east, the Greater Lake Tahoe area, the mountains, 80s and 90s with a chance of thunderstorm activity. Highs today very similar to yesterday, if not even just a degree warmer in our inland areas with the west wind 5 to 15 miles per hour. Mid 80s from the Tri-Valley backing through Black Hawk all the way into Concord and Walnut Creek. 66 degrees San Francisco, upper 70s in San Jose. Check this out. This is your weekend in writing. Yeah, we put a stamp on it here. It's a typical summertime weather pattern, pretty benign, pretty stagnant. Any way you want to say it, it's not going to change all the way through Thursday.
It's all right, though. We'll take it.
The weekend looks great.
Yeah, does look
okay.
good.
Well, you've given us a few clues. Time for the big reveal. We want to know where you are at.
Oh, yeah. Earlier this week, I really had an adventure. I headed to the South Bay. I headed to the wonderful, beautiful community of Saratoga. It's nestled in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and we went horseback riding with Where's Roberta? Giddy up. Only 20 minutes from the heart of the Silicon Valley, Garrod Farms offers horseback riding and is a family-owned and operated winery and 28-acre organic vineyard.
The family's been here since 1893, and so we have been a part of the community that long. Generations have grown up riding here at the ranch.
My dad first took me there when I was about 2-3 years old and would lead me around on a cute little Shetland pony, and that's how I fell in love with horses. And I ride and have my own horse now, so it's a lifelong affair.
Since 1994, people have come to know the Cooper Garrod wine label as well.
How has the drought affected Garrod's stables?
You'll notice that our pond near the trails is a little lower than usual. In terms of vineyard practices, we've always been mindful of our resources use, and we are certified sustainable, so that's part of our daily practice.
What is your favorite sound here?
Right now is summer, and we have day camps going on with children laughing and leading horses and having a great time outdoors every day.
You're gonna put one hand here, one hand there.
I'm getting ready to jump on a horse here. Give me a little bit of advice.
Listen to the instructions.
Just sit up nice and straight, that's all you gotta do.
Pat the horse, make sure you're connected with him, and then just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Wow.
This is a down shoulders kind of place. My friends who work in the valley always tell me when I'm coming to see you, I just feel my shoulders relax.
That is photographer, cameraman Brian Kiley there with the GoPro. It was such an incredible experience, and I actually have had a fear of horseback riding all my life. Not so much a fear, but I get anxiety because I can't control the horse. You know, it won't do it as I ask, but that was amazing. That horse went everywhere I asked it to. It was the best experience horseback riding I've ever had. I thoroughly encourage you to try it, and if you want more information, you can visit us online at kpix.com and then click on links and numbers, and we'll take you to Garrod Farms.
Brian looking rather regal.
Well, and it's very amazing because here you have the Silicon Valley, and then you go back to the basics.
Yeah, it looks
Very
beautiful,
cool.
Roberta. All right, thanks.
Thanks.
I'm Dennis O'Donnell. Coming up, should the Raiders play in the 49ers' new stadium? Vote now at cbssf.com. We want to hear from you. And who said Tiger Woods wouldn't or couldn't make the cut? The surprise of the British Open. Coming up. Good morning, everybody. The past 3 years, Rory McIlroy's scores at the British Open have consistently gone up, up, up. Last year, he didn't even make the cut. But this morning, he's in the catbird seat. Frustration abounds at Hoylake, especially for Henrik Stenson. Tiger felt a little frustration in his first major of the year. Listen in.
Jesus Christ. Guys.
At the top, please, on the balcony. Can you stop taking pictures?
Yeah, what are you thinking? Despite the cameras, Tiger is 69. He's just 3 off the lead. His approach on the second hole doesn't go in, but a tap-in stormed atop the leaderboard. Did McIlroy, a 66 Mateo Manassero, is just 1 back. The stadium wasn't the only thing the 49ers unveiled yesterday. Left tackle Joe Staley has agreed to a 2-year extension that will keep him with the 49ers through 2019. Sprint to the finish. Stage 12, Tour de France. Norway's Alexander Kristoff barely holds off Peter Sagan. Italy's Vincenzo Nibali retains the yellow jersey for the 10th time. It's the summer of LeBron. For the first time ever, he's been named the most popular athlete in a sports poll, according to the new Harris poll. Serena Williams voted the most popular female athlete.
Time for the play of the day. Green Bay Packer linebacker A.J. Hawk, celebrity golf tournament. We're up at Lake Tahoe. Fan inside the tee box, not supposed to be there. Hawk says, "See ya." Knocks him down. Apparently the fan said, "I double dog dare you to take me down." He said,
he did.
"Not a problem." They kind of shook hands and said, "No big deal." And by the way, that tournament going on all weekend long up at Lake Tahoe. Beautiful. Yeah, there's the hug.
Yeah, there you go. 6:26 right now. A man accused of groping women at SFO turns out to be an international investment mogul. And we're learning more about the allegations against him. Details straight ahead.
As the world grieves the loss of the almost 300 people who died on Flight 17, there's a unique hit to the world of AIDS research. The latest on the downed plane's victims, up next.
from the CBS Bay Area studios. This is KPIX 5 News.
And good morning, everyone. It's Friday. It's July the 18th. I'm Frank Malick.
And I'm Michelle Griego. Time now is 6:30. You have to see this home video from eastern Ukraine. You can see debris falling from the sky as a Malaysia Airlines plane blew apart. Those white streaks right there are parts of the plane falling to the ground. Separatist rebels who control the site where the plane was shot down are giving conflicting reports of whether any data recorders have been recovered. CBS reporter Susan McGinnis is live from Washington. And Susan, Ukraine is calling for an international probe to figure out who shot down the civilian airliner.
That's right, Michelle, as is the United States and many other nations. So far, the nationalities of all passengers on that plane have been identified except for 2. And so far, no Americans have been found to be on that flight so far. Right now, U.S. officials are trying to determine who is responsible for firing the missile they believe brought down that plane.
Teams in eastern Ukraine are sifting through what's left of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. They're gathering luggage and other personal items that are still intact after yesterday's crash. The debris spans 9 miles. Malaysia's prime minister is urging locals to let investigators do their job.
And no one should interfere with the area or move any debris.
The Boeing 777 traveling from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur yesterday went down as it flew over a field in a region controlled by pro-Russian separatists. U.S. military intelligence strongly suspects a surface-to-air missile brought it down. Ukraine's security agency released recordings of what it claims are intercepted phone calls between a Russian intelligence officer and a separatist group in Ukraine. CBS News couldn't verify the recording, but a voice is heard saying, "We just shot down a plane." Russian President Vladimir Putin denies his people had anything to do with it and points the finger at Ukraine. All 298 on board died, including 3 infants and a large group of prominent AIDS researchers who were headed to an international conference in Melbourne. Flowers, candles, and notes line the steps outside the Dutch embassy in Kiev, a growing memorial for the victims.
And the UN Security Council has a meeting planned for today to talk about forming that international investigation. Michelle?
Susan, tell us more about the reported phone intercept.
Well, there was an apparent conversation intercepted by Ukrainian authorities. It's not confirmed, but apparently this was a conversation between a pro-Russian separatist and a Russian intelligence officer. And in that, this pro-Russian separatist sort of took responsibility for the downing of the plane, telling him, "We shot a plane down." And there was another transcript published in a media there that was a conversation between 2 separate pro-Russian separatists, similar conversation talking about us bringing the plane down. We shot down this commercial plane. So these conversations are not confirmed, but it could end up being that smoking gun that confirms what a lot of people suspect here, which is that these pro-Russian separatists mistook this commercial jetliner, this civilian jetliner, for a Ukrainian military plane and shot it down.
What is the U.S. response so far?
Well, the U.S. wants this international investigation like many other countries. It also is calling for a ceasefire, telling all sides to observe a ceasefire, which seems to be happening right now. There has been peace there ever since this crash. Meanwhile, the U.S. is, conducting its own investigation into whom could be responsible for firing that missile and trying to determine if either of those last 2 unidentified passengers could be Americans.
Susan McGinnis live in Washington with the latest. Thank you.
And the victims will all be taken to a government-controlled city for identification. So far, 181 bodies have been recovered. KPIX 5 reporter Ann Makovic joins us now live in the newsroom, checking the possibility that any Americans might have been on board that plane. Ann?
Yeah, well, we just heard Susan say at this point, there are 2 nationalities of 2 people that are unconfirmed this morning. No real indication that they're Americans, but that is yet to be determined. Most of the passengers were European, including 154 from the Netherlands. There were also Australians, Malaysians, Indonesians, Filipinos, and 1 Canadian. Bodies and debris are scattered over almost 6 square miles. People from the nearby village are gathering personal effects. Here, a tourist guide to Bali. There, passports. Friends and family of many of the victims gathered at the Amsterdam and Kuala Lumpur airports to find out what they could and grieve together. And another sort of grief at the site of the International AIDS Conference in Melbourne, Australia. As many as 108 scientists and researchers from around the world were on board that plane, headed to the conference, which is set to start on Sunday.
This incredibly sad and sensitive time, the IAS stands with our international family and sends condolences to the loved ones of those who have been lost in this tragedy.
Dr. Joop Lang from the Netherlands, former IAS president and renowned HIV researcher, was on board.
The loss of his expertise and his leadership is a blow that I just don't know how we will ever replace him. We're dedicated to eradicating HIV/AIDS, and today that hoped for outcome seems even further away.
A well-known local doctor, Paul Volberding from UCSF, was not on board that plane. He's already in Australia, and he did write a letter to the Washington Post saying, "What happened is an unspeakable loss." Frank.
And Al, what about the AIDS conference in Australia? Any changes because of the plane crash?
Well, it will go on as scheduled. Organizers say that's what their colleagues would have wanted. They want this to be a tribute to the scientists lost and a way to galvanize those still fighting for a cure. Live in the newsroom, Ann Makovic, KPIX 5.
And we'll have all the latest developments on the crash and the investigation at kpix.com.
Today, Israeli troops are mounting a ground operation deeper into Gaza with the goal of destroying tunnels and rocket launching sites. The Israeli Defense Forces released video of troops crossing the border overnight. There are conflicting numbers on casualties. Gaza health officials say 19 Palestinians, many of them civilians, have been killed since the ground operation began late last night. Israel says it killed 14 militants and one Israeli soldier died.
6:37, we're going to switch gears and bring it on home here because we got a weekend to talk about, right?
Yes, and we actually had to use our windshield wipers this morning.
It was wet.
I know, just for a bit.
Yeah, but not because of rain, but because of an intense marine layer this morning. It's definitely deeper. Morning, everybody. Rise and shine. Heading on out the door. You, too, may need your windshield wipers. Around the bay and around the coast, we have heavy condensation in the form of drizzle due to that deep marine layer that's now causing delays at SFO over 1 hour on some arriving flights. 50s and 60s out the door. The winds are under 10 miles per hour out of the west, which means it's a sea breeze, and that breeze will kick up to 20 late day, pretty much near the seashore at 65 degrees. No clearing of the skies in Pacifica, Moss, Montera, or in Santa Cruz for the most part. 83 degrees with full-on sunshine in Livermore. Upper 70s in San Jose and 70s coming around the North Bay. Your extended forecast, what do you see? Take a good look. Yep. Not barely any change at all. That's a look at your Friday weather. Elizabeth, what's happening on the road?
Well, we just got an alert from CHP that off-ramp in Sunnyvale should be open here any minute. We've been waiting for word. In the meantime, it's good that they're about to reopen that off-ramp because the delays are really beginning to build as well from San Jose into Sunnyvale in those northbound lanes of 101. If you're just waking up with us, there was a fatal accident overnight and that Lawrence Expressway off-ramp has been closed since shortly after 2 a.m. So that off-ramp was scheduled to reopen sometime this half hour between 6:30 and 7, and they're working on wrapping up the investigation right now. You can see the heaviest delays, though, are from, it looks like, as far back as the Guadalupe Parkway. Here's a live look. Bay Bridge Toll Plaza. Metering lights are on now, and you are stacked up through the foot of the maze. That's your latest KCBS traffic. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Liz. 6:39 now. Turns out the man accused of groping a woman at SFO while allegedly drunk is an international banker. And here he is, 53-year-old Eric Slayton. Sources tell us he had a few too many drinks and then took security measures into his own hands. Slayton allegedly took a woman into a private room for a pat down, and when he tried to do it again, he was caught red-handed by TSA agents.
New this morning, filmmaker George Lucas is running into resistance to his plan for a museum in Chicago that will hold his graphic art and memorabilia collection. Lucas had chosen the Windy City after being dissatisfied with what San Francisco offered, but now open space advocates in Chicago are promising to sue, saying the land along Lake Michigan is supposed to be preserved for public use. It's putting Santa Clara on the map. The new state-of-the-art home of the San Francisco 49ers is ready for some football.
Sure is. You probably haven't seen a stadium like this ever.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There we go. A big party yesterday. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was held at the $1.3 billion football stadium. The festivities included dignitaries and many of the people who worked to get that stadium built. And talk about cutting-edge design. There's Naturally sourced local wood lounges in the lounges there. Glass, metal, and stone throughout the complex gives it a rather modern look. It has already won the hearts of a lot of people.
You can feel the difference, and you know that the fans are going to feel the difference.
This wasn't something that just happened overnight.
Now, it took years. Gourmet Kitchens will cook most of that locally sourced food from scratch with more live fire stoves and pizza ovens than any other stadium in the world. You will be well fed if you go to a Niners game. We've got a full guide to all the Niners' new home and the schedule of upcoming events on KPIX.com. And you catch the first football game at the new stadium right here on KPIX5 against the Broncos.
Time now is 6:41. A bank robbery leads to a wild gun battle through the streets of Stockton. Coming up, new details on how the scene unfolded and the woman caught in the crossfire.
And a Silicon Valley billionaire submitted more than 1 million signatures in favor of splitting California into 6 different states, but that effort may already be dead in the water. We'll have the latest coming up. All the international events driving global markets today.
Here now is KCBS Radio's financial reporter, Jason Brooks. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Frank. We had a pretty big sell-off yesterday after the downing of that Malaysia air flight over Ukraine. There have been worries for months that conflict would escalate. Also, Israel announcing its ground offensive into Gaza sent stocks quite a bit lower. The S&P 500 had its worst session in 3 months. The Dow fell below 17,000. Markets are rallying a little bit this morning, and earnings are certainly playing a role. Some very significant Silicon Valley companies reporting their results. Google helping out the tech sector in a big way. Its revenue rose nearly 22% from a year earlier, close to $16 billion. And investors like the numbers in those results. Its shares are up about 2.5%. On the negative side today, Advanced Micro Devices is disappointing in a big way. It topped earnings expectations. Its revenue was up 24% to $1.4 billion. However, its current quarter guidance was much weaker than anticipated, and its shares are plunging in the early going, down by 18%. Let's take a look at the big board, see how we're doing in the early going. Right now, the Dow is up 50 points, back over 17,000. NASDAQ is gaining 19. The S&P right now is up by 7 points. Michelle and Frank, back to you.
All right, Jason, thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
You too.
The 3 alleged bank robbers who took hostages on a wild chase through Stockton were heavily armed with an intent to kill. Juliet Goodrich reports from the bank where it all started.
She was a mother. She was a wife.
41-year-old Misty Holt Singh taken hostage and killed during the crossfire. Police say bank robbery suspect 19-year-old Jaime Ramos lived by using her as a human shield.
Disgusting.
Desiree Armstrong fell to the ground when she heard her best friend was gone.
She was probably begging for her life, and I know what kind of person she was. She was really strong, so I'm sure she tried to hold it together and tried to do what she could to try to figure out if she was going to live or die.
The high-speed pursuit and deadly gun battle ended right across the street.
It ended right here?
From Carlos Quintana's home.
My mother and my sister ran to the living room and they told me to get down so I wouldn't get shot.
He took this video from his bedroom window. And now that the road is reopened, we're getting a closer look at some of the homes along the chase route hit by gunfire. Bullets now marking this home. Police say the suspects had an AK-47 and 3 handguns with magazines taped to the suspects' bodies. 2 out of the 3 suspects were killed. Police say 2 of the other female hostages were either pushed or jumped out of the SUV and are recovering. Even with hostages inside, police say they had no choice but to open fire. The only suspect to live forced Misty to take the bullets meant for him.
This person used her as a human shield. Well, I hope that swiftly what goes around comes around.
Juliet Goodrich, KPIX 5.
Police say it is possible the suspects in Wednesday afternoon's robbery also robbed the same Bank of the West branch in January. These are pictures of the suspects from the 2 crimes. In both cases, the robbers are wearing sunglasses with hoods, and they used an employee's car to escape.
It is 6:48 now. A push to split California into 6 states is subject to fraud allegations now. Opponents want the Secretary of State to investigate reports that signatures gathered misstated the initiative's goal. Allegedly, a petitioner told a potential signer the measure was to actually stop a breakup, not promote it. Silicon Valley billionaire Tim Draper has now submitted more than 1 million signatures, put that plan on the 2016 ballot.
Time now is 6:48. Let's get a check on the roads with Elizabeth.
And we have an update now in Sunnyvale, the scene of our breaking news overnight, that fatal accident that shut down the Lawrence Expressway off-ramp. Within the last 10 minutes, they just reopened all lanes. So again, that Lawrence Expressway off-ramp remains open. That's the good news. It's still pretty slow, though, coming up northbound 101. The delays begin right around Brokaw. You can actually see it on our road sensors. We can show you our maps and show you all those speeds, averaging just below 30 miles per hour. So we've seen a number of different incidents, spin-outs, accidents, far more than a typical Friday. The roads are a little slick. We've been seeing some drivers driving the Golden Gate Bridge using the windshield wipers, so just be a little extra careful on the roads. Here's one of those accidents we've been watching in Fremont. Southbound 880, it's approaching that Thornton Avenue exit. It's on the shoulder, but traffic is already slow from Whipple, as you can see. And the Bay Bridge, it is also stacked up through the MacArthur Maze. The metering lights have been on now for about an hour. And a quick check of the Richmond-Santa Fe Bridge, some slight delays in those far right lanes. It's Friday. What is driving you crazy on your commute? Marion in Hayward emailed us and says when a driver waits until the last minute and crosses from the fast lane across 3 lanes of traffic, no signal to get off the freeway, as if they don't have all the exits named miles before each exit. This is actually a common gripe. We get a lot of emails about this one. Someone realizes at the last minute the next freeway exit is theirs and does that multi-lane cut across traffic. At best, this causes frayed nerves and at worst, a major accident. I've actually noticed this happens a lot on Interstate 80 in Berkeley before the big turnoff for the Bay Bridge. So watch out for those lane cutters, especially near freeway exits. And thank you again for that email. Keep them coming. We want to know what drives you crazy during your commute. Ask a question or share a gripe by emailing crazy@kpix.com. Or you can tweet me. This is for you, Roberta. Ewenger, KPIX, EWENGER, and watch to see if your question gets answered on air. All right, for the latest on our forecast, another, I call it schmitzy. What is Frank calls it something else?
He calls it moist.
Moist.
Yeah, wait, I'm tweeting you right now. E-Winger. Okay.
E-Winger,
Because I got lots of
KPIX.
stuff that drives me insane.
Okay, keep on. Yeah, we want to hear.
All right. It is schmitzy out there. It is so foggy. It is so drizzly out there. This is the scene at the coast right now where we do have a lot of heavy drizzle due to layers and layers of low clouds. Temperature-wise, very similar to yesterday at this hour. Upper 50s in Santa Rosa. It is now 63 in the Tri-Valley, 64 degrees in Oakland, closer to the bay. Oh, look at this. Beautiful. Official sunup this morning, 6 o'clock. So we're now starting to see some blue sky as the clouds are parting over San Jose, where we currently have a southeast wind at 9 miles per hour. It's a typical summertime weather pattern today and all the way through the weekend with near normal temperatures. Here's what you can anticipate. First things first, this area of high pressure not going anywhere. It's over the Four Corners states. Meanwhile, way far to the south, we have a pesky area low pressure hanging out near the seashore, enhancing our marine layer, so it will remain cloudy and cool along the beaches all weekend. Now, today, for your Getaway Friday, 90 degrees at the state capitol, upper 60s, and Monterey Bay through Carmel, where we will see the clouds begin to break up during the afternoon hours. We still have a chance of an isolated thunderstorm in the high Sierra through Half Dome, otherwise 65 degrees across the northwestern quadrant of the state of California. No clearing in Pacifica, 65 degrees, no clearing at the Avenues or the Sunset District, mid-60s in San Francisco, upper 70s in San Jose. To the north of the Golden Gate Bridge, we're talking about a westerly at 15 miles per hour, 80s while inland. And by the time the sun sets, it looks like we will see those temperatures pretty seasonal for this time of the year. 60s beaches, mid-80s in your inland areas each and every day. Can we say summer doldrums? Frank, give a shout.
Okay, Roberta, thank you. We'll take it, though. Time now is 6:52. Nearly 300 people are dead after a plane is shot down in eastern Ukraine. Coming up, the evidence that may lead to those responsible.
And tough new marijuana laws go into effect in San Jose today. The dispensaries are scrambling. I'm Kit Doe. We've got a live report coming up.
5 things to know at the 55. Rebels in Ukraine claim they've recovered the data recorders from the downed Malaysia Airlines plane. It appears that a surface-to-air missile brought it down. Ukraine's government says it has intercepted phone calls between rebels in Ukraine and Russian intelligence, where the rebels claim responsibility for the attack.
All 298 people on board that plane died. Most of the passengers were European, including 154 from the Netherlands. 3 infants and a group of prominent AIDS researchers were all killed. 2 passengers' nationalities are still unknown.
Israeli soldiers and tanks are continuing a ground invasion in Gaza. Israel launched the offensive yesterday, just hours after a failed ceasefire. Hamas is vowing to retaliate. The UN Security Council will meet today to discuss solutions to the crisis.
And 2 massive wildfires still burning right now in Washington state. The latest in the northern portion of the state has prompted the evacuations of hundreds of homes and a hospital. Washington's governor has declared a state of emergency for 20 counties.
Firefighters discovered a grow house while out on a call this morning in San Francisco. A fire started just before 4 a.m. on Mayflower Street in Bernal Heights. Firefighters found an illegal marijuana growing operation there. 1 person was arrested.
And I'm Kit Doe, live in San Jose, where the city is putting the big squeeze on marijuana dispensaries as tough new laws go into effect today. However, do not expect any major police raids to go on. Instead, this will be a slow and steady tightening of the noose against businesses that aren't following the law. Shutdown letters will start going out in the next 90 days for businesses that, for example, are too close to homes and schools. Code enforcement unit officers also have a short list of worst offenders that it'll soon turn up the heat on. If owners find an approved location to move into inside one of the city's designated industrial zones, they'll have a year to make that move. Mayor Chuck Reed says it's been a free-for-all here for the past couple years.
The federal government says we have to have a strong and effective regulatory system if we're going to allow medicinal marijuana, and that's what we've adopted.
The dispensaries have banded together and collected about 60,000 petition signatures to overturn the new law. The problem is about half of them are invalid. Back here live across the street from City Hall, and you can see 2 tents have been set up in an Occupy-style type of protest. Camping is illegal in the city of San Jose, so it'll be interesting to see how long that'll be allowed to go on. The dispensaries have been very public about this fight, and we'll check in with them to see how that effort is going to gather those valid signatures. We're live in downtown San Jose. Kit Doe, KPIX5.
And one final check of your KCBS traffic. Now that Lawrence Expressway has reopened, our new hotspot is in Fremont. Southbound 880 at Thornton. That accident is on the right-hand shoulder, not blocking lanes. But we're seeing big delays from Union City. The roads have been slick this morning, Roberta.
Certainly has been. We have a deeper marine layer this morning, and it is evident by the drizzle, heavy drizzle out the door this morning. No clearing of the skies along the coast in the 60s, otherwise partial bayside clarity in the 70s. And inland areas, we have lots of sunshine, very little change each and every day through Thursday. And I don't see any excitement up here by it being Friday. You guys have been really mellow.
Oh, well, no, we are excited. It's all inside.
Yeah, you have a big walk this week.
I do, the AIDS walk. So everyone get out there on Sunday.
Okay. How long is it?
It's 6 miles long.
miles.
So there you go. Yep,
I'm
getting the shoes ready. All right, everyone, have a great morning.
And a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you again at noontime.